Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Simplified Church podcast. We are so grateful that you've joined us today as we're getting to catch up just a little bit and then dive into a conversation about why we need processes. And I know for some of you, your eyes just glazed over and you got the cold sweats because the word processes just gives you a twitch.
Yeah.
But hang with us, because I'm convinced that every church needs processes.
Yes,
and so we're just going to talk about that a little bit, and what maybe even some simple ways to begin processes if your church doesn't have processes. What's that first step toward a process? But I also would argue that for most churches, we have processes. We maybe just don't call them that.
Yeah.
And so we want to identify those, make sure those are working well, and that they're helping our church do what we've been called out to do. But before we jump into that conversation, I want to check in on my guy, Mike Whittemore. He is looking rather dapper today in his black t-shirt and the black rimmed glasses. So Mike, how are you, my friend?
Well, I might look better than I feel. Maybe, I don't know. With that description, that's very kind of you. First off, this is why I think you're such a gentleman. As you lead with kindness, Gregory. I'm good, man. Like we were talking, off the air a little bit. Just, I feel what everybody feels in this season. Just the tension of mounting to-do lists and responsibilities, and sometimes a lack of clarity on what to do, when to do it, and it's what we all wrestle with. It's what we all deal with at times when we're in roles where we're responsible for a lot of those things that require systems and processes.
Sure.
And so, yeah, doing great, man. I love this time of year. I've told a lot of people about my my forbidden fruit, my secret, kind of pastime, which is the enjoyment of the pumpkin spice latte and all of its glory that is presented to us either in a Starbucks form or gas station form. Listen, I don't have a discriminating palate, I guess, but so I'm enjoying that, enjoying the fall. What about you? What's new?
Man, I'm right there with you. The fall it seems like it's busier this fall than the falls that have led up to it in the last few years. Seems like schools are busier, churches are busier, communities busier. And so just trying to not only keep my head above water, but keep a good pace and a good balance. And I think that's a difficult thing, but it's also one of the things that processes help with.
Yeah, they do. But you know what else helps busyness? Caffeine.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, like if I could pan my camera, y'all would see my coffee station. It's pretty extensive. So I'm right there with you that caffeine does help. But I know that these are going to be like fighting words, but like I'm not the pumpkin spice guy.
You don't say.
I don't know what it is. Like, I don't care for pumpkin pie.
That's insane. That's the craziest thing you've ever said. What? What do you mean you don't like pumpkin pie?
I just don't care for it. Now, like a pumpkin roll,
okay,
that I can do.
I was getting very concerned for a moment.
But
you
might
as well just say you hate the bald eagle and the American flag too. Good Lord.
Not quite that extensive, but So
pumpkin rolls are really good.
They are. So I want to shift gears real fast. But this is going to be one of those moments where we talk about real life events that do make this a little bit of a date stick. But talking to my guy from Cincinnati, I need to hear everyone in baseball is grieving.
Oh man,
Pete Rose.
Oh man.
What do you think? Is he going to get in the hall?
Listen, there's a dark cloud over our city. I don't know, man. I don't know if like post-mortem they decide to do these kinds of things. And I feel like in doing so, it might actually cause more harm than good. And I was just having this conversation actually, because here's why I say that. To do so now is to do so either out of a place of like applied dignity, maybe, or like as an act of contrite honor. But it also, what it communicates, at least non-verbally, is that we were wrong. And I don't see anybody on that team admitting that they were wrong anytime soon. I know there's a huge push for it right now. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's going to be an immediate thing, and I'm with you. I think it wouldn't be the right play, but I have advocated for ages, right or wrong, betting on baseball, lying about it, whatever. Doesn't, as a player and as a manager, he deserves to be in the Hall.
Man, more than most guys that get in there, and there are guys in there that are arguably way shadier than Pete Rose.
Sure.
What are you doing?
I mean, arguably the best hitter ever.
Yeah, Charlie Hustle, man. That dude is, he's the hit king as far as I'm concerned.
And probably will be forever.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I don't know that anybody can catch him.
Unbelievable career. And to be marked by that, man, why do we always judge people on their worst days, and then allow that to be this thing that defines their whole life is just so unfortunate. Now, whenever he showed up here to Cincinnati, you'd have thought that dude was part of the, the quadrinity.
Sure.
Because people love him, and they were doing a huge memorial event for him down at the Great American Ballpark.
Okay.
Which I thought was super, super touching and cool. And Marty Brennaman, who's was a longtime announcer for the Reds, he's a Hall of Fame broadcaster. He kind of led the charge and just said some sweet things, and honestly got me a little choked up, just thinking about the relationship and kindness that was shown between those two guys. And so we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Well, guys, thanks for indulging us for a moment for that conversation. But it was fresh in the mind, and I wanted to get the take of a Cincinnati guy.
Yeah. Right now that's not the only thing we're sad about right now, unless you've seen the opening the opening season for the opening part of the season for the Cincinnati Bengals.
The who?
The what now? The Cincinnati Bengals? We got one W on the board, baby.
But here's the deal.
Eat it, Andy Dalton.
We don't have a team.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, yeah, you don't care. Football. But you do have the Battlehawks, man. So
that's true.
I like some arena football.
And since my Cardinals aren't doing anything in baseball, I'm throwing my support behind the KC Royals, hoping that they go win some more games and maybe bring home a championship. I'd be for that.
That would be okay. I'd be okay. And so I'm going to attempt at a really terrible segue. So talking about championships and talking about winning, what really helps your church win is processes.
Lay it on me, Mike. What?
It's processes.
I agree with that assessment. So let's talk about processes.
Boy, that's the worst segue I think I've ever made. But I don't feel too bad about it. It is what it is, man. It's a Thursday afternoon. So when we start talking about the notion of processes, and you made the joke about, man, kind of eyes glaze over or whatever, but for a lot of guys listening to this, I think you're going to be able to recognize that I don't need to sit here and make a case for the essential nature of a process. Like you said, we all have processes. It's just, can we name them? Can we put identity around them? And for a lot of us, what we can do is we can identify processes by and large through all the wrong or unhelpful or confusing things that are taking place in our churches. Mm-hmm. And so we struggle to create new and healthier and better processes that are designed to get us to a greater outcome. But we're quickly able to identify that, man, there's this thing happening in our church that it's just a bad process. It's, bad decision-making, bad outcomes. It's not repeatable. So if you do have something that is winning at your church, but you can't repeat it and you don't know why it's winning, then really it's a bad process. But a bad process can produce a lucky outcome, but it cannot produce a repeatable, healthy outcome. And I think we can all identify that. So that's setting the stage and the framework. We have to understand that there needs to be a pursuit. And that's very definitive of me, but I just believe this to my core. There has to be a healthy pursuit for healthy processes. And so getting down to the nitty gritty of who's in charge of that and what's that look like. I mean, processes are not just this thing that happens at the top end of your organization. They happen to the nth degree of even the smallest of departments. Even if you're a facilities director at your church, like he needs processes. You need processes for the work that you do, to ensure that you're achieving the greatest outcome, right? Maximizing the stewardship that has been placed under you.
Sure.
And so when we talk about processes, I want to kind of bring a little bit of clarity to what do we mean by that? Because I think we all, to some level, have a kind of a working definition within our own minds of what that looks like. But I just feel like processes are kind of they're essentially a formalized way of doing things. They're just a formalized way of doing things. So when you start taking that definition and applying it over, okay, how do we make decisions about the calendar? How do we make decisions about events? How do we make decisions about ministry programming? How do we make decisions about our budget? All of those decisions should result at the end of a well-executed process. Does that make sense?
100%.
So in your church, what are some of the biggest areas that you see processes working really well? And again, they may not be batting 1,000, but to some degree, you're like, man, our processes work pretty well. We have a formalized way of doing things.
Yeah. So some of the low hanging fruit ones that are easy to get going and seem to work consistently and work well for us, like building usage process. Like, what does it look like to reserve our building?
Okay.
What kind of form do you have to fill out? Who gets that? Who signs off on it? Who puts it on the calendar? All those kind of things. There are lots of moving parts, but not hard to begin, not hard to keep going, but super helpful in ensuring that we don't double book the building and we don't make it so that our cleaning crew can't get done what they need to get done because the building's always in use, or any of those number of things. So that was one that works really well for us. That was super kind of easy to do and to manage. Another one that's a process that I think is really important, and I think we've done a really good job of not only setting up the process, but articulating and communicating the process, is what it takes to be a member of our church. So what our membership process looks like. We have a membership class, and at the end of that membership luncheon class, those folks who participate are able to say, hey, I'd like to take the next step. And the next step is to have a conversation with one of our pastors, where we get to know them a little bit more and hear their story and hear about their profession of faith and whether or not they've been baptized or not, and have those kind of conversations. And then the next step is, okay, well, if you need to be baptized, let's get that scheduled. If you are a follower of Jesus, that's the next step for you. Or, you've been scripturally baptized, and we're ready to move you into that next step of getting you plugged in to serve and getting the church to affirm you as a new member of our fellowship, and walking them through all of those processes. And so sometimes your processes have to have processes.
It's 100% true.
But I think that's one that we have really done a good job with, and we've made it clear, and it's repeatable. And every time we do it that way.
Yes. And processes require ongoing evaluation to ensure that we're getting the best possible outcome. And so sometimes we find a process that just works really well. And for the season that we're in and the things that we're doing, particularly like the engagement pathway that you just kind of laid out on, how does one become an active contributing member to your particular community of faith? This is the process that we use, and it works really well for us right now. But there may come a time where you got to go, let's evaluate that, because I don't know that we're getting the best possible outcome. And so there's even a process for how you evaluate processes. So this is one of those things that can become very ethereal and somewhat nebulous when we start talking about it, because people get very confused and hung up, and it's like talking to like a 4-year-old, Daddy, did God make the world? Yes. Why? Well, because he chose to. Well, why did he choose to? That's a great question. And so, like, every question begets another question. And so processes can do that. It can feel like pulling back an eternal onion where you never get to the center. That's not helpful. So asking why toward a chief end is what is helpful. And so I would be curious to know, why do you guys do it the way that you do it? Like what is the genesis behind that?
So as far as having a clear pathway to membership, so we're a Southern Baptist church. So we found ourselves, like many Southern Baptist churches and Baptist tradition churches, where we've had lots of people, they walk an aisle, they fill out a card, and they were then a member of our congregation. Okay, well, that was not helpful because we didn't get to know their story. We didn't get to find out, are they actually followers of Jesus? Have they put their faith and trust in Jesus alone to save them from their sins? Those kind of things. Are they going to actually connect and be part of the life of the church? Are they going to serve? All those kind of things. So seeing people come, walk an aisle, pray a prayer, fill out a card, and then kind of disappear caused us to say, we need to do something that helps us make it clear to new folks, how do you become part of the church? What does it mean to be part of the church? But also at the same time, ensuring that we give people clear expectations of what it means to be part of our fellowship. Just say, hey, it's not just come on Sunday.
Right.
It's not just give money. It's not just like there are things like, if you're going to be part of our fellowship, like you have an obligation to serve in some way. I was super excited. We had a membership. We call it Discover First at our church. And we had one of those luncheons this last week. And a new couple, they've been maybe 3 or 4 Sundays. And so they're not ready to be members yet, but they saw what it was and were like, well, we'd love to know more about the church. We're like, well, come on. And so the lady stopped me after and she said, well, you said that everybody has a place that they can serve. And she said, and she held up her hands and they were shaking just a little bit. She said, I have tremors.
Yeah.
How can I serve?
Coffee bar. Sorry, I'm terrible. I'm a terrible person. Everyone's thinking it. Go ahead.
That's right. Here I am having a heartfelt moment.
Okay, probably not. Go ahead.
but being able to look at that lady and say, you know what, I appreciate that so much. Maybe you could be a greeter. Maybe you could serve as, an information, guest information kind of person. Like, I don't know. I said, but we'll find some place where you can serve and where your tremors don't negatively impact your ability to serve.
Yeah.
And so I was super encouraged by that of somebody who,
that's great.
Hey, what can I do? But I think that was a piece that was missing before we began developing these processes, to say we had the unwritten expectation and uncommunicated expectation that people would serve.
Yes.
But we weren't telling them that.
Or equipping them
right
on how to.
Exactly. And so by developing this process, and it's not perfect, but it works for us. And we're constantly kind of tweaking it and evaluating and making it better. But by and large, it seems to work well for us because its overarching goal and its main function is to ensure that those who do become covenant members of our fellowship know what it means to be a covenant member of our fellowship.
Yeah. And so what you've illustrated there is there are there are 2 primary reasons that warrant us to go back and readdress processes or lack thereof. The first overarching reason or motivation is where there's a problem, where something's broken and it's not working. And we already know that we want a different outcome. We know that that this should yield a different result. And so because there's the problem, we now have to go back and we begin to evaluate why there's a problem. And then from there, we begin to implement processes that allow us to reach the outcome that is desired. And so you saw that. The other motivator that you also articulated in that is that we have this overarching set of values and philosophies and ideals that we want for our people. And therefore, we need a process to make sure that we're helping people get there because we feel a sense of responsibility to that. Like if Ephesians 4 is correct, then there's a work that church leaders are to do to ensure that everybody is fulfilling their God-given role within the church. And so we need a process for that. And so not every every team that's gathered to work on creating new processes is solely designed to do so for the sake of solving problems.
Right.
Sometimes it's, we know that there's a desired outcome that we've already philosophically identified, and we need some processes to get people there.
Yep.
And so that those are important in this discussion around processes is what's motivating them. And so as you're taking this back to your team, whether you're the lead guy or you're a high capacity volunteer or you are, you're on a leadership team, it's coming back to the question and then asking, man, what's broken right now? And so there's kind of 4 questions that you can use when working on identifying the need for better processes. And the first question you ask is, what's right? What's right about what we're doing right now? Because we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Generally, something that's happening, whether we like it or not, or it's not fully functional, or maybe it's fully dysfunctional. Generally, somewhere in that is something right that's happening, even if it's the most just you're reaching the quilting group at our church is ruining the building. Some ladies, there's blood on the carpet now because, she whatever your issue is, you come back. Well, what's right about that? Well, people are gathering in community for a greater sense of shared relationship. Okay, that's right. Then you move on to what's missing. What's missing from this project, this ministry, this program, this thing that we've got going on. And so then, boy, that's really eye-opening because now you can say, well, what are we missing in this? And then you identify those things. And again, you put all of these things on a board. Then you go to what's wrong. What's wrong about this? And you begin to identify all the broken things that exist within your current area you're trying to address. And then you ask a really important question that we often don't get to because we like those 3 questions and we move on. But the 4th question is really important, is what's confused? What's confused? Because people may not know or understand why they're being asked to do something, or why they should do something, or why this outcome is better than what we're currently doing. And maybe you're trying to kill a ministry and you're going through these 4 questions, and asking what's confused can be super helpful. So in the process of establishing processes for what you're trying to accomplish, those 4 questions can be very eye-opening to helping you. I think from there, you have to then take all that data, and before you start laying out a new process, you have to start asking the question well, how does this match up against our mission, vision, and values? Because anything that you do, again, if we're trying to have a formalized way of doing things, the chief outcome not only needs to be a solution to whatever problem exists, but they also need to honor the mission, vision, and values of your church. So in your particular scenario, this, kind of new members pathway, this engagement pathway that you have, how does the outcome of that class match up with the vision and mission and values of your church?
Yeah, so it really is it's the gateway to our mission and values for our vision. So we've broken down our vision into 3 areas. We want to engage our community. We want to equip the saints, and we want to impact the world. And so to do those things, we need members who understand exactly what it means to be part of our fellowship.
Yep.
And once they know exactly what it means to be part of our fellowship, they can become part of that process where they're helping us engage our community with the gospel, doing things that are hands and feet kind of things that allow us to serve our community, that we meet a need, we see those needs, we meet them, we come alongside and try to be engaged and just involved in our community. It allows for us to equip the saints so that they're able to connect and plug in and be part of our discipleship process, part of not only being part of the process, but helping to facilitate some of that process. Like anybody can come to one of our groups, whether they're a member or not, but like to lead a group, you need to be a member of our fellowship. That's just one of the things that we require. And so to be able to have those kind of equipping opportunities for the other saints in our fellowship, we need members. We need folks to be part of that. And then, impacting the world, whether it's, learning about missions, whether it's going, whether it's sending, all those kind of things, trying to get a broader view of the kingdom than just, the Metro St. Louis region of the world.
Right.
And so all of that is impacted by a high view of membership and inviting people in and sharing with them, hopefully clearly, what it means to be part.
And so you've identified a desired outcome. Like that's what we want. We want to see this vision come to fruition through our church. And then you start working backwards. Mm-hmm. That's really the process for the process. Is you do have to ask that question. Like as you're evaluating it, then you have to be able to step aside and go, well, what's the chief outcome? And how does that match up against our mission, vision, and values as a church? And then you start working backward to go, okay, well, if this is the chief outcome and this is what we want to see people do, then how do we get them there? What do they need to do that? Oh, they could probably benefit from a new members class. Oh, okay. So what are we going to do at a new members class? We're going to cover these things. And so how are we going to cover them? What are we going to give out? What are we going to put in people's hands? And then, okay, well then how often are we going to hold that class? And who's going to lead that class? And then, okay, how do we communicate that class? Who's in charge of that? Who's in charge of owning the communication for that and the follow-up? Like it provides you a myriad of questions. And so when you're done, you look back and you go, man, we actually have a really healthy process to help us reach this outcome that we believe God is calling us to. And we've spent time evaluating it by asking those questions, those 4 questions. And then we can end this journey toward a better process, feeling very equipped and very confident. And then we're just going to spend time evaluating that. So we're going to put a date on the calendar, and twice a year, we're going to sit down with our team and we're going to just reevaluate. Is this still working? Because we need some sort of metric. Like if our goal is we want to see hands and feet, then as a result of our new members class, how many people that have come to that class are actively doing it? And how many people who are attending here regularly have not come to that class? And why haven't they? So it's again, it's all in the evaluation. It's all in the questions that you're asking. It's all in the outcome that you desire. And then working backwards to initiate the process for that. One thing that I would, kind of land the plane on with this, that can be like really great, is in the execution of a process, there are 3 steps. And we've laid out a lot for you today that can be helpful in asking questions. But there's kind of, 3 steps that I would encourage all of us to implement. Is the first is that discovery phase. Discover, what do we want to do? Where do we want to go? Ask those questions. What's the outcome? Spend time doing that. Get a team of people together to help you with this. Don't do this alone. Whether it's, asking people from within your church that have the capacity for it. Just do whatever you can to get the right people in the room to have these conversations and do a season of discovery. And then from there, once you've done all the discovery and you know what your outcome is, we're going to do some design work. Let's design this process. So we're going to get people in the room and we're going to design this thing. And then the most crucial part is to activate it. We have to activate this process. If we don't activate it, then all the work that everyone just did is a giant waste of time. Yep. And that's the fastest way to ensure you lose buy-in and then you fall back into unhealthy processes. Yep. You know, well, yeah, we were going to do that new members class, but we did all that work, but we never activated. We never did it. So, but man, we're coming up against the wall and we've got to get something. So what was that thing we used to do? Let's do that. Right. And now we're back stuck again.
Yep. Well, and just a suggestion that kind of comes hand in hand with what we've been talking about. And it in its form really is a process. But when you can distill your process into a decision-making tree.
Yes, that's really good.
That can be really helpful. Where everything is listed, if this, then this, if this, then this, if this, then this. Then when it comes time to actually doing that activating spot, you know exactly what to do.
Yep.
You're able to say, okay, here's what's happening. So here's what we're going to do. Here's what's happening. Here's what we're going to do. And it's not, that, oh, okay, I think this is what we said we were going to do. I think this is how it's going to play out. So let's begin walking toward that. No, like being very specific and giving, even sometimes it's just a yes or no. Like I don't have it laying out here anymore, but usually on my desk, I have a decision tree about facility usage. Is it this? Then the answer is no. Is it this? The answer is yes.
Right.
Unless this, or, there are a series of things, or like even weird things like, does that go out on the prayer line? Does that prayer request go out on the prayer line? Well, is it this? Then no. Is it this and this and this? Then yes.
Yes. That's good, man.
Just to have those things where it's super simple, and then you don't fall back into I'm not really certain how this is going to work out. I'm not really certain what we said we were going to do. So let's just go back to what we used to do.
Yep.
And just let everybody call each other.
Oh, good grief. Yeah. The prayer chain. That's a glorified gossip hotline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you went from having a hangnail to being dead.
Yes. Yeah. Or it's like, hey, did you hear about Sally? She's in the hospital. Yeah. Also I heard some stuff about her with her job. Then it's like, what are we doing here? And so, yeah, it's that kind of stuff, man. Like bad processes lead to bad, unrepeatable results. And that's just bottom line. The one other encouragement I would give as you're thinking about this is to go find, there's plenty of examples like free on the internet of decision trees and how you can build your own. Like, I think that's fantastic. Go get a decision tree. And then no matter what process you're implementing is like identify the owner.
Yep.
You have to identify the owner. Someone has to be the arbiter of that process. Someone has to have the final authority on yes and no, because your processes will easily and quickly get jacked up because people will seek to end run a process because they want to go fast. They want to change the game. And so sometimes we have to be pretty dogmatic about our processes for a season so we can actually like have a period of evaluation to determine whether or not they're actually being effective.
Yep. And
that can't happen if someone's not in charge, owning it and preventing it from getting hijacked, which will happen all the time. Someone may come and say, hey, youth pastor says, hey, pastor, we want to do a big fall retreat. I know it's kind of late in the game, but I had a really cool opportunity open up and we can get this space, and we didn't really budget for it, but it's going to be like an additional $2,000 out of our budget, and it's going to put us over budget, but I think it could be a really cool experience. Can I go ahead and give a yes? Cause I got the guy on the phone. Can I give him a yes and put down the deposit? And that's where, pastor, you got to say, no, you can't. We're going to use a process to determine, is that ministry event, is it something we should be doing?
Right.
And so let's talk about previous retreats. Let's talk about what you're currently doing. What's going really well with your current programming? What's missing? Is a retreat missing? Maybe. What's confused about your programming that you think you need a retreat? Like, processes will require you to slow down.
Yep.
But they will lead you to a better outcome if we're willing to do that. So I just think it's important that we ask those questions.
Yep. And once everybody understands the process and lives the process, it actually won't ever get in the way.
No, it doesn't. No, it becomes part of culture. And that's what we're after, right? It's, I've been working through some resources lately, man. And this pathway for like how to function has been so beautiful, but was talking about this like order of operation and things of necessity within an organization. But it's like, man, every organization needs culture, every organization needs processes, every organization needs communication, and they need unity.
Yep.
And man, those four things, which we can probably cover at a later episode, but those big ideas, those are essential to the health of every organization, and processes are an anchor to that. And so if you don't think they're necessary, then I mean, you're operating your church or your organization at a deficit, and you're leaving yourself wide open to an unhealthy culture, bad communication, and disunity. So every one of those is an anchor point, and they need each other. So this is just a great conversation on why your church needs processes. We've given you some practical and I think very tangible tools, free of charge, as always, here at the Simplify Church podcast, to help you simplify your ministry. We love doing that for you guys, because that's the thing we're always chasing, is how do we simplify this thing? Get it down to a manageable level that is repeatable and healthy for our people. That's what we're here for. And we're here for you. So we appreciate you, pastor, leader, whatever role you have. And we want to encourage you to keep chasing these processes. If you want to know more, shoot us an email, podcast@simplifychurch.com. Connect with us on social media. Go to Facebook and head over to Simplify Church, and we can connect with you there as well. But we're definitely in your corner. We're praying for you, hoping that as a result of this dialogue and conversation, you'll begin the process of implementing some healthy processes at your church soon. Have a great week. We'll see you.